We are back with some more World War III. Now, I covered this game on the channel a few weeks back, and judging by the awesome response that video got, you guys were super interested in it and just ate it all up. And I think a lot of that has to do with the absolutely barren wasteland of new FPS titles hitting the market these days. We all want quality, and we're looking for anything to scratch that FPS itch. And man, I gotta tell you, it's been really rough out here. My name is LtBuzzLitebeer, and welcome to my YouTube channel. We are back, as I said, in the universe of World War III, a free-to-play tactical FPS that has been going through a series of stress tests and closed and open betas, trying to get the game ready for launch later this year. Now, earlier today, the team over at the Farm 51 dropped a mega update addressing some of the biggest issues I had with the game. Remember to smash that big, beautiful subscribe button and ring the bell to receive all my future upload alerts. Let's go. So I've been waiting with bated breath for this update to finally hit the live game, because in all my previous playtime with it, you really start to notice three components of the game that need serious attention. Now, one is it needs more content, which is not addressed in this update. Two is it needs to be ported over to console ASAP. Believe me, I'm with you, all my console brethren. But by far, the worst area of this game had to do with the fucked up sound design. It was an absolute shit show with unbalanced levels based on distances, guns and vehicles not making any sound at all, and then footsteps that sounded like herds of wild beasts just rolling through the plains. Well, I just got off about an hour of playtime with the latest patch, which, by the way, weighed in at a whopping 12 plus gigs, and pretty much every issue I had with the sound design has now been corrected. So alongside with this patch, the dev team also dropped an extensive write-up of the changes, and we need to go over these because there's a lot of them. And by far, the most amount of changes have occurred in the area of audio, and literally every last one of these starts off with either fixed or improved. I'm going to do my best to run through this complete audio update right up here, and it really feels like they went in and just completely scrapped the old audio system and updated the driver, for lack of a better term. But anyway, they stated they completed polishing on all weapons in first and third person perspectives, including bullet impacts. I can tell you, huge issue with this in the past. I couldn't tell when my rounds were hitting targets, and likewise, I couldn't tell when I was taking incoming rounds. You simply just wouldn't get any audio cues at all. That seems to have been fixed. They improved all weapon sounds, including new shots, mechanics, and melee sounds. I can tell you, the weapons sound way different than they used to in the past, especially indoors to outdoors. They also state, and this one doesn't look very glamorous, but listen to this, they fixed an issue with duplicate steps behind the player's back. Huge issue in the past with footsteps in this game. Not only when you're around squad mates, but just hearing enemies run up on you. You would get this duplication and tripled and quadrupled, and it just sounded like this. You would hear this, and that would be like 2 or 3 people that were running downstairs from you. You couldn't tell what was going on. Yeah, that seems to have been fixed. They also fixed a volume issue for most vehicles, improved all suppressor sounds in first and third person perspectives. Many times when you put a suppressor on your weapon, it had no effect. They improved the optimization of audio environmental sounds, including global ambience and room tones. Added Velcro sound effects for some weapon reloads, improved air vehicle engine rotation sounds. Many times when the helicopter would be called in, you wouldn't hear any rotor sounds above you. It was just completely silent. Added no ammo sounds for all weapons, including separate sounds for launchers. Fixed issues with missing sounds when equipping and unequipping weapons. Improved hearing distances for all weapon sounds. Doesn't look glamorous again, but that's super important. Being able to tell by the volume of the weapon how close or far away was something you didn't have it in the past. Now you can tell, hey, this player's maybe across the map, or maybe they're right next to me. They improved hearing distances for strike sounds and fixed volume issues. Improved shell sounds. Every caliber now has its own specific sound. Improved shell sound mechanics for G28, M200, and Toknost. Improved grenade sounds in first-person perspective and hearing distances in third-person perspective. Really important there. Added low ammo feedback to assault rifles, battle rifles, SMG sidearms, and the shotgun VEPR-12. Fixed reload timing in first and third person perspectives and the volume of reloads. Fixed a problem with the lack of sound on incoming bombers and the sound of other aircraft cutting off. Yeah, many times you would be on an outdoor objective. You wouldn't even know when an incoming bombing round was coming in, so you could clear off and try and protect yourself. It would just hit you, you would die. Fix a problem where Mephisto is silent in first-person perspective. A problem with interior soundproofing after the destruction of a quadcopter or drone has been eliminated. I'm not real sure what that one is, but I can tell you that many times when you did destroy things, like vehicles, if you were in close proximity, there was just some sort of bug where all your sound would cut out and you would get no sound at all unless you dropped out of the lobby, and many times just dropped out of the game and then rebooted in. Fixed a problem with a lack of armament soundproofing in vehicles. Lowered the frequency of emitted voiceovers on maps, for example, from radios, TVs, and megaphones. Many times you would run around and there was these blasting PA announcements that would just overpower everything, including boots on the ground, including weaponry, or even vehicles driving by you. Improved RCWS volume and attenuation. Fixed no-shot sound when using mini-cannon 25mm. Fixed problems with the volume of shots fired by vehicles underground being too high. Fixed problem with some reloads in first-person perspective. Problems with silent vehicles in first-person perspective have been eliminated. Huge issue with that. You would be on an objective, trying to be all stealthy, maybe crouch behind a vehicle. A tank could literally drive up behind you, an enemy tank could drive up behind you, park on top of your ass, and you would not know it because it would not make a single shred of sound. Improved attenuation performance for vehicle parts and strikes. Fixed problem with disappearing sounds of shots and explosions. Yeah, that was huge. You had no idea somebody was shooting a weapon or explosions going off around you. It would just not come through. Fixed issues with high CPU consumption caused by the reverb system. Improved sounds of rockets and jets. Added new sounds and fixed some audio issues. And finally, fixed issues with shooting and explosion sounds cutting out, especially from long distances. Now, I understand that's a lot to kind of digest. I'll include a link to this article in case you want to read it on your own. And it really feels like the game has a completely new sound palette added in. Footsteps were fairly easy to locate, and I didn't find myself being overwhelmed with both friendly and enemy footsteps being muddied together. Weapons were pretty balanced in terms of proximity balance. Those that were close to me sounded stronger than those being fired at distance, which was a real problem prior to today. And I could generally hear vehicles coming from a distance, and I could plan accordingly. Now, I can go on, but think of it like how sounds and sound design should function in a real tactical FPS game. It's still not completely dialed in. There are times that after a huge blast in close proximity, it takes the full spectrum of incoming sounds a while to recover, almost like your ears are ringing. And then there's this real lack of bass in the overall design. The mids and highs are now there, but the bass seems to have been removed. And you really start to notice that when you get around large caliber shots like tanks or maybe enemy ordnance dropping in. But I'm going to tell you, if I had to choose between sound design working and not having enough bass versus it not working at all, I'm going to go every day with the first option. Also included in this update are some minor technical issues, like they've updated some matchmaking bugs, added in a few general additions, as well as the fact they've added on a newcomer screen for new players to help them get acclimated to the game. Now, the final bit of this update had to do with overall gameplay changes, and I'm not going to go through them all, but I wanted to really zero in on just a few of these. First up is the limits of armored vehicles now allowed onto the battlefield, and all I gotta say is hallelujah. The strength of armor is still a bit overtuned. It really takes a lot of incoming damage to drop these suckers, and I would like to see that reduced by, say, another 20 to 25%. But now, there are at least a limit of 2 combat vehicles allowed at any one time per side. And this really places the emphasis on the foot soldier gameplay, and I endorse this ethos 1,000,000%. Now, as far as the weaponry, they've increased the hip-fire accuracy of the majority of assault rifles, making them a more consistent kill in close-quarters combat. They also beefed up the RPG ammo count by 1, and this was always a huge issue when it came to attempting to actually down those armored vehicles, tanks, and such. You could get them low, but then you'd run out of RPGs and they would just limp back to their spawns and fully repair the vehicles. And finally, they've listed out a series of general improvements to certain maps, movements, collisions, and texture tweaks. As you start to take a look at it, World War III is really in its own driver's seat for success right now, with both Call of Duty Vanguard and Battlefield 2042 really just falling flat on their faces. Fans of new tactical FPS games are looking for something, anything to catch their attentions, and this game has a lot of gamers' eyes on it right now. Like I said, I got an hour or so playtime in this morning, and I'm impressed with the reversal of the horrific sound design. Now, it's not perfectly dialed in, but it's a far cry from the tragedy it used to be. Now, if the dev team can get the content beefed up, say like double or triple the number of maps the game currently has, and then add on new and interesting modes, World War III stands a real fighting chance of carving out a little piece of the FPS market. Get that console port up and running for current and next-gen consoles, and then it's going to be really interesting to see what this game can do overall. Now, World War III is currently retailing for $14.99 in the Steam store, but that is for early access. Once it's ready to launch, expect WW3 to be free to play with in-game purchases consisting of cosmetic packs only. As always, I encourage you all to leave me any feedback you find relevant to World War III. Please remember to smash that sub button and ring the bell to receive all my future upload alerts. If you could rate and or share this video, it would be greatly appreciated. You can find and follow me on Twitch, Twitter, and over on my community Discord server. Links to all my socials in the video description below. Thank you so much for all the love you've been showing me and my channel. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.